Hi. Of course you'd be the first person here. I'm just kidding. Oh. Nia, do you have to send me a request? Oh, wait, hold on. Okay. Oh,
Hello.
yes.
Hello.
I haven't seen you in a minute.
I know. How are you doing?
I'm good. I miss you.
I miss you too. It's been too long.
I feel like it's probably only been a week, but we do this a lot where
It is a lot.
it'd be a week too long.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I feel so special. Like,
You
wow.
are special. Like, I wasn't lying. You're one of my favorite poets. Like, I really want to be like you when I grow up. Because,
Oh my God.
like, first of all,
Well, there is a book. There is a book on the screen.
I know that girl.
Oh my God. I might know her too.
She real cute.
Oh, well, she is.
So, I don't know. I just feel like really special because one, it's like my favorite part of the book right here is this note. But two, it's just like I get to talk to you and like other people like you. And I'm just like, I love to fangirl and fanboy over people because, it just takes a lot of courage. And I feel like I found so much out about you reading this. And I was just like, hold on, this girl been my mentor for like what, 2 years now. Finally got the book. But
That was shade. That
it
was
was,
shade. It
know
was
what?
shade.
I love you. But it's okay. Um I guess we should jump right in, right?
Yes. Let's
Well,
get
first,
to
let
it.
me say this is Brookie's Corner. I'm Brookie, and I just want to talk to all the people who write poetry. They write creatively. They have a book, whatever. Like I really want to highlight different people doing cool things like this. So let's jump right into cotton. All right. So this is my first question. If you had to summarize your book in 3 words, what would they be?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Um, I would say young, um, black, and tired. Um,
Tired.
tired.
I can imagine why you chose those three.
Yeah.
Young because you published this in 2018, correct?
It was actually 2017.
Just kidding. You tell me this.
Yeah. it was August 28th, 2017. This is the 5 year anniversary of Cotton, and I was very much young, still figuring myself out. A lot of the poems in the book were from like early high school days. Some were new, some were things that I had just began to write like in college. But for the most part, they were reflective of the thoughts and the feelings and like my political understanding when I was only, 16, 17 years old living in DC, which is already a very political city and like, very racialized in how gentrification was happening and how I was experiencing that. So, yeah, it definitely, when I go back to reread it, I don't reread it often because I don't like rereading my work. Um, but when I do go back to reread it, I'm like, oh my God, man, I was such a baby. I was so young in how I thought about the world and even sometimes the hope in my words felt young. It was just like a almost like a it felt like almost like a childlike wonder, like oh my gosh, like the world is so bad, but if we only believe, we can do it all. That's how it felt.
Still has
But
some
yeah.
sense with it,
Hmm?
right? still had some innocence with it. It was hopeful.
Yes. It was definitely a lot. It was not jaded. It was just a genuine reflection of like, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm experiencing, and this is how it's making me feel.
Okay. How did you come up with the title?
Yeah, so I have been thinking about it for a while. But I knew that the book was going to be very black. I was like, absolutely, this is all that I'm talking about. And I wanted to take something that was typically like associated with pain and suffering. And I wanted it to be the title of the book because I wanted to reclaim it in some ways. I wanted it to be attached to my words, which I felt were beautiful, which I still feel were beautiful, um, were optimistic, we're hopeful, we're resilient, or reflective of the resilience that we have as a community, that I had as a young person growing up in DC. Um, and when I thought about it, I was like, well, there's no other plant that I can think of as resilient as cotton. And it felt like it has so much cultural significance for our community, for myself. I was like, okay, that's the title.
Indeed. Who would you say like needs to read this book? You know, I found the poems in the book to be very like equally praising to and encouraging to like both men and women, but like who would you say needs to read this book?
Um, I would say any young person, honestly. I think honestly, people of all ages could resonate with the book. I think for people who maybe want to see themselves in the book, probably like middle or high school age, young black people. Um, I think again, this is reflective of that. It almost feels like a time capsule, of my brain at that age. And I feel like it would be really helpful for young people who are in high school or who are in middle school to like see that and be able to be like, okay, other people are peeping what I'm peeping, right? Like I'm not the only one out here seeing what's going on and feeling these kinds of things and having these kinds of questions because there are several books towards the several poems toward the end of the book where I'm basically like, why would I want to have like kids in a world like this? Like this world absolutely hates me as a black woman. Why do I want to bring life into this world? And that felt so scary to say at such a young age, to be like, bro, I don't even know if I want to have kids. Like, let's relax. Y'all talking about dating and relationships and getting married and all that. Who said we trying to do that in this kind of world? Who said that? Who said that? And that felt scary because that felt like the expectation um, from so many people, and especially in the black community. I think everybody is like, so when you want to have a baby, when you going to settle down, when you going to get married, when you going to get your degree, all of that, right? And I was like, to at that early of an age be like, I don't even know if that's the path for me. This is scary. That felt like a little like, oh my goodness, like I'm ruffling a little bit of feathers. So I think it would be really cool for young people to see that and be like, no, what I'm feeling is valid. I also think I offer a lot of education in the poems. I did quite a bit of research for a few of them. And I try and share as much like factual information as I can, even the significance of like the publication date. There were so many things in history that happened on August 28th. And for all the people who watch this or who are listening, you can go look it up and we could chat about it. But all of it was intentional to not only leave people with my thoughts, but also to leave people with things that like were educating and nourishing and that they could carry with them into their own like projects and practices.
Yeah, I found out a lot of new information about you with this book. I do agree that it was educational. Like, I really like the discussion questions that you have in the back, and just the topics that you touch on, like poetry and spoken word, family, mental health in the Black community, social activism, and art. But I knew you were a little feisty. I knew you was a beast. I read this book and I'm like, oh snap! Like You real life that girl. So my question is, would you say like with this book that you kind of make it known that you are an activist, like a social activist? Because I felt like so many of these poems were connected to like what was going on in the news and like society and that we were all experiencing as a people. So yeah, I mean, I personally have never heard you say that you were an activist, but my relationship with you is only a couple years young, and this book is was created a while ago. So I just wanted to know, like, how did that, was this like your manifesto?
That's a really great question. I don't think I've ever like really talked about this in an interview. So shout out to you with the question.
I've been doing my little research.
You've been doing your research.
Together.
So when I was in high school, I actually did call myself an activist. And I was like, protesting, and much to my family's stress, they were looking at me like, girl, you trying to be out here in these streets. And we want to make sure you get home properly, okay? I'm gonna need you to sit down somewhere.
Out.
And I was trying to pop out. So in high school, I definitely felt that way, and I was a lot more like active. Like I would march and I would protest with my peers, and I would do a lot of poetry that was geared, like similar to in the book. I would do a lot of poetry at open mics and other competitions to like raise awareness of what I felt was important. And then I think college changed that for me, though. And actually, senior year, I wrote a thesis about the gender politics of emotional labor in Black activism spaces. And that thesis was basically looking at like who's carrying the weight of the mental, the emotional, the psychological burden of activism work in these spaces. Who's even calling themselves an activist, right? And doing that research so quickly humbled me, because I was talking to folks who are really pounding the pavement, who were rightfully reluctant to even talk to me, right? Who were like, girl, you got ignored on purpose, okay? I only responded because, I didn't get the sense that like you were, trying to like bring harm to me, but, I wasn't even going to respond. But in talking to them, so many of them were like, I don't even call myself an activist. I give the community that I'm working with and I'm serving the space to call me that, right? I don't lead with that. The moment that they told me that, they're like, 9 times out of 10, the people who call themselves activists haven't earned that. I said, whoo. That hit me in my chest. Because as much as I called myself an activist at that point, I was like, how many people actually would call me that without me prompting them to?
Yeah.
Right? Like, am I just spoon feeding that to them so that's what they associate me with? Mm-hmm. Or are they seeing in my work and my actions that that's who I am and what I'm trying to be?
That's true.
And from that day forward, I stopped calling myself an activist. I barely wanted to call myself an advocate. I was like, I'm just out here doing work and trying to unlearn things and trying to relearn things and trying to figure out my way in the world. And whatever people want to call me while I'm doing that is fine with me. So to this day, I haven't, unless other people like put that on me or ascribe that to me, I won't call myself an activist.
Noted. Okay, so speaking on the times when this book was written and like the poems that you included in there, how did you get into the mindset to even be able to like write about social issues and things like appropriation or police brutality? Like, what did you feel to be able to sit down with it and like actually write on it? Because I remember like watching what happened and hearing about what happened with like Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown.
Yeah.
Like those were the very like, especially Trayvon Martin, like that one really stood out to me because like, whoa, like he's like my age, right?
Yeah.
And so how were you even able to write about it? Because I feel like we all were mourning and we all were very much in an uncertain mind space, just like what is going on, you know?
Yeah, I think for me, that felt like my way to mourn. That felt like my way to express both my grief, but also my deep anger and frustration with the world and the system that we live in. Writing has always been like a source of therapy and an outlet for me. I started writing when I was 8 years old after my grandmother passed away. And that was my place to place my feelings. That was the space that I had to be vulnerable, to open up. You know, my journal could take everything that I dished out to it. It never got tired of hearing me.
Right.
It never had an opinion. It never said anything back. It just collected my thoughts. And that was my welcome mat into writing poetry at all. So when Trayvon Martin was murdered and brutalized, that was, I think, the shift for me, where I was like, okay, poetry can be more than just me venting and leaving my emotions on a page. Poetry can also be a tool that I use to speak up and to hopefully shift things in a different direction. And at that point, I wasn't really convinced I had much power, but any power I had at that point, I wanted to leverage it for good.
Period.
So that's
you did, because I feel like this book is so powerful. It's so powerful. Like I really just couldn't believe that you was doing this in high school and college. Like you just stellar. Gotta go out, Najya. I'm just kidding.
No, you're making me blush. Stop.
Stop. So you talk about being like Black womanhood and everything, and like being, what was the exact word? Hold on. You call yourself what? Afro-Caribbean? Something like that? Right. So I just want to know, like, how, you know, with how you identify, how you were raised and your experiences, like, how did you show that, like, in your book? Like, how did that pop out?
Yeah. So I think it shows up a lot in this book based on my audience and the voice that I use in the poems. Because I was raised primarily in the home with my mother and my maternal grandmother. And my maternal grandmother was from South Carolina. And I find that most of the women that I was surrounded by growing up were, in a lot of ways, like the king of their castles. Like they were the ones calling the shots, making their own demands, running the businesses, coming home, taking care of the kids, holding it down on every level. So I always had the image of a self-sufficient Black woman. Always had the image of, I'm good, I got it, I'm strong, I don't need nobody, right? And that had an interesting separation from traditional Caribbean cultures, because my father came from a very patriarchal culture, that where men are the king of the castle, right? Who are calling the shots and running things and taking charge. So to see both of my parents and both of the cultures that I come from elevate two different kinds of people in different ways as kind of like these key structures in the home was interesting to me. And I think I internalized a lot of what I saw, especially in the home with my mom and my grandma. It was, I think I speak very much from a place of strength in those poems. Especially, I have a poem called Wounded that is very, 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 very much so like, I'm not your weakling. Yes, I'm not your weakling. I'm not someone that you're going to run over. Like, I'm here. I am here. I'm here to stay. This may hurt in the moment, but you don't get to call me your victim. And when I say you, I mean the world. I mean people who have, been abusive to Black women, to Black girls, to society at large. Like the book is very much saying, don't play with me. And I'm tired of my people being played with.
I have wounds, but I'm not wounded. Thang, scared and powerless like wimp willows in a drought, colored coward in the face of adversity, I am their worst nightmare, an angry scar that won't heal, that won't be quiet because it's too infected.
Yes.
I can't with you. So there was actually a piece that I wanted to read from Before There Was, We Were. And I really like this piece, so I'm just gonna go ahead and read a little bit.
My goodness.
Before there was an inkling of the doubt in the curves of my planes, the coloring that seeps into my skin, the shapes put together to sculpt my face, the fear of finding out the secrets of my blood, the complacency adapted in this new home. Before there was doubt that I'd forget every link in my DNA, every drop of wisdom I saw in nature. Before there was, I was magnificent. Magnificent. I was pretty, glowing, priceless, sought. I was wanted. I was so that I could stretch beneath my community, my back now a raft to stay afloat in the suffocating sea of this moment. So, I wanted to read that specific one because I found a lot of these poems to be affirming. And so I just wanted to know, what do words of affirmations mean to you? And, is that your love language? Or is that, your first one or what? 'Cause, I mean, obviously, words are important to you, Miss Poet.
Great question. I feel like my love languages ranking has kind of changed a little bit. So for a very long time, words of affirmation was a dominant number one. It was words of affirmation is 80% and everybody else is 5. Just give me all the words. Now, as I've gotten older, as I've matured, as I've taken on more responsibility as a young woman, my predominant love language is actually acts of service. Because I find sometimes that people can talk really well, and even though they talk really well, it can be very empty. So to see people back up those words of affirmation with acts of service that reflect you not only speaking to my heart but listening to my heart, now that's when I know I'm loved. That's when I know that you see me. That's when I know that you hear me. And that's when I know that you feel appreciative to experience me as a whole. So yeah, I would say it would be a combination of words of affirmation with words acts of service with words of affirmation.
I just want to make sure I know how I can love you correctly. Okay, so what has happened since you published this, in regards to your writing?
Wow, that's a loaded question.
What's up? I want to know what's up.
So a lot has happened since I published that book. That book, I will always be grateful for Cotton for a lot of different reasons. I think it helped me to find my voice. It helped me to develop confidence as a writer, as a mentor, as a peer, as a performer. It gave me courage to pursue what I want passionately, and I think that's shown up in every single thing that's followed it. This book has opened a lot of doors with regards to where I performed. So I performed up and down the East Coast. I competed in poetry slams and national competitions and small scale competitions. I featured at different venues, at different open mics. Some places that I never would have even imagined. I've met celebrities. I've talked to folks, and I mean, meeting celebrities, I don't think is a benchmark of status, but it just goes to show that
you was in the room.
I was in a room, and my words well, I remember when I first published this book, I told my mom, I said, Mama, no matter what, if this book only sells 5 copies, the fact that my words are touching people when I'm not even in the room means so much to me. If I only sell 5 books, I'm happy. And that dream, that hope of just touching people, even when I'm not in the room, completely blown out of the water. Like within the first year, I had like return on my investment into my book. And after that, it just became profit, and it became a conversation point for people when they're meeting me and getting to know my work as an artist. But yeah, I performed, I met people. Folks have bought my books in bulk and distributed it as gifts. And some folks have reached out to me personally and just said how much my book was healing for them and has encouraged them to find their own strength and their own power to lead their own lives. I've gone on to create a spoken word album. I've gone on to create short films with my friend Hakeem and Gulu. And I still write. I still dream of, like, you know, one day running my own television show or making my own movie. And I still have musical dreams in the album space. So it's opened up my creativity. And I think as I'm in this new chapter of my life now, I'm more so taking on the role of educator in the writing space. So I've been hosting courses with Catapult. And most recently, I joined Midnight and Indigo as one of their instructors as well. So it's just been an awesome, awesome gift to not only share my words with the world as a performer, as a writer, as an author, but to help other people, young, older, in between, hone their voice so that they can do something similar.
And I feel like I am the perfect example of that.
You are.
Why do I feel like I'm about to cry? Hold up. We're not about to do this, man. It's like, I'm just over here like, wow, like, she just keep naming stuff. You talking about Catapult and Midnight and Indigo, and I'm just like, wow, like, you know, I was already impressed and in awe of you, and it's just like, you just keep going, and it's like, dang, like, I'm not about to cry. I'm so grateful and appreciative of you because, like, you know, whew, wow.
Brookie!
Hold on, I'm not.
Brookie Madison!
I had a really long day today.
Oh my goodness. Brookie.
Anyway, you just helped me in a lot of ways. And
yes.
Next question.
Those of you who do not know, Brookie and I first met actually through Permission to Write. I was assigned as her writing mentor. And from day one, it was definitely a conversation, not of like, oh, if I can help you, or, you know, what, you know, maybe doing this, but like, okay, you want to write a book? Bet, let's get started. And Brookie will tell you that I was on her about making sure that her poems were together and that her work was to a place that she could be proud of, that she would want to see, you know, years and years later. And to help her birth her book baby makes my heart so full and so, like, so warm, and so happy. And I feel so privileged to know you and to
you come on now.
Yes, but I'm just saying, I'm so grateful to know you, and that, you know, Permission to Write and life in general brought us together, because you are an incredible writer. You're an incredible poet. And to see how you've come out of your shell. Brookie, of when I first met you, honey, would not be interviewing me on live right now. She would not. She absolutely would not. So to see you out here doing your thing, like, you know, just wanted to give you your flowers too, Miss Mamas. You're doing great.
Thank you. I'm still learning to accept compliments and accept that I am in this writing space with people, because I feel like, and this is the only part that's going to be about me, but I just feel like I have spent so much time, like, engulfing myself in my own writing, but also, like, you know, just fangirling over other people and just like
Yeah.
really being happy and like, you know, I feel seen in other writers and poets, and it's just like, dang, like if Najya can do it, then you know maybe I can. If Rashad can do it, then like maybe I can. If Laquan
Yeah.
can do it, then like maybe I can. So like very soon, I'm gonna, you know, step on a stage, but I'm just very like appreciative of you for holding me accountable for something I've been saying for so long. Like, yeah, I wanna publish my poems, and like when I said that to you, you didn't forget. You was like, okay, so when we gonna start? What's the date? Like, how many poems? Like, let's get this Google Doc going. And I'm just like, okay, how do I do this? And he was like, I got you. And you just outlined it and really allowed me to like figure it out. And you know, you I always say you held my hand through it, but like you really did guide me, because like you weren't like, no, I don't think you should do that. You was like, okay, I will work with that. And so I'm just really appreciative of you. And so I feel like we have one more question in us. Get out of here. I can't believe you nearly made me cry on live. So any advice to any poets, authors, people who want to support their community, like what would you say to them?
Listen. Listen. Listen to your community. Listen to the world around you, and at large. Listen to yourself. Give yourself enough time so that you can hear yourself. A lot of the people in my life call me a workaholic because I'm so busy because I'm so busy all the time. And one of the things that I really have been trying to commit a little bit better to this year is actually giving myself the space to just be. To just, even if it's just an hour of my day to look at the wall. I literally tell my mom this. I'm like, Mom, I'm gonna just look at the wall for like an hour. She's like, okay, you do that. You take it, you handle your business. And to have that opportunity for clarity, for reflection, to absorb, right? To recognize my own heartbeat. You know how often we walk around and we are not even aware of our own heartbeat, how wild that is?
Yeah.
The amount of things that are happening in our space, in our body at all times. And we would never know. I wrote a piece that I performed, and I compared a heartbeat to the sound of a ticking clock. And I asked in the piece, if someone were to put up a ticking clock analogous to that of your heart next to your ear, would you know it? And I had asked myself that question, would I know it? And the answer was no. The answer was, I'm not even sure I ever heard it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever been quiet enough in my life, in my space, for me to hear it. That was a problem for me. And so this year has been me devoting myself to things that are fueling in that regard. Going on retreats, taking intentional quiet time, taking space to not write. Do not be afraid of the dry spells, of the writer blocks. There are so many moments I wish I could go back and hug little Najya and be like, girl, you're not meant to write the poem right now, and it's okay. Because there's going to be a night where you churn out like 8 and you go to bed feeling empty. Let the time that you're unable to write anything be your time to not write anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. That's okay. Go live. Yeah. Go have fun. Go listen. Go in affectionately, in the words of our generation, of our time right now. Go touch some grass. Really, go touch some grass. Unless you're allergic like me, then I'm not telling you to go touch the grass because it's giving anaphylaxis. But if you aren't allergic to the grass, go touch some grass.
Touch some grass. And to
go
listen.
Touch some grass.
And just be.
And just be. And listen.
Well, listen, Naya, I am very much appreciative of you just being your amazing self. You're so inspiring. You're so
Thank
helpful.
you.
Like I don't know how you balance your life because, like, med school is a lot, and you do that, and you also teach because you're an educator, and you deal with me and my dramatic self and whatever I have going. Like, you just be everywhere, but I'm really appreciative of you for allowing me to read your book and question you about it and always learn from you. And, that's really it. I'm really happy that we were able to do this. I'm really happy that people enjoyed it. Like, people are saying some cool stuff about you in here. And, you really are an inspiration to everyone. And so I'm just trying to be like you and continue to have this space for creatives and talk to other poets and writers and whoever else is willing to sit down with me. Like, one, first of all, I got to get a copy of your book because I'm wanting to support everybody, small businesses, black poets, white poets, whoever, you don't even gotta have, it don't have to be a poetry book. It could just be some writing. So yes, thank you so much. And I'm gonna talk to you real soon, but thank
Yeah.
you for coming to Brookie's Corner.
Whoop, whoop. Thank you
Second
for
time.
having me. It's cozy over here. I like it
No,
here.
I'm sorry I didn't, offer you anything. I'm a bad host, but next time I got you.
Thank you. I like chai tea.
Me too, but I like mine cold.
Oh, I like hot.
We'll figure it out.
Okay. Happy medium.
Yes. Well, you have a good night and I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you, everyone.
Thank y'all.